Hey everybody, welcome to the Why the F Not podcast. I am your host, Steven Brogan Cortez. Welcome to episode 81. We made it to 81. We're just gonna keep pushing forward like a train, like a steam engine. And today, in this locomotive, our new guest for today is Natalie Lander. Not a friend from college, but a friend from Rockwell Table and Stage. She's a singer, actor, writer. She does it all, man. She'll make you laugh even. But I met Natalie back in Rockwell Table and Stage back when I was house managing back there, and she was one of the stars of that stage. I'm so happy she got a chance to come down to the podcast, hang out, chat with me, talk about what she's working on, we talked about everything. We talked about tarot cards even. We talked about death and grief. It was a very insightful conversation. So come on, without further ado, let's get the clip rolling. Welcome to the Why the F Not podcast with Natalie Lander. Recording. All right, we're live. All right, welcome to the next episode, y'all. You just got the intro. You know who I'm sitting with here today. Natalie Lander. Welcome to the show, Natalie. Welcome. We had our little back and forth already, but I'll ask you again. How you doing?
Doing well. All things considered, I think I'm hanging in. I feel like I'm finally the phoenix rising out of the ashes moment.
God, I hope that's all of us coming into this year. It's almost over. 2022 is almost over.
Yeah, it is almost over. And let me tell you, I don't know if you're into astrology, and I love astrology. I'm super into it, but I'm not an astrologer. I really don't understand it, but we've collectively gone through some really crazy planetary stuff, and 2023 is going to be much better. So, you heard it.
I'm not, breaking news here, but I'm not one that's not, I'm not super in depth into astrology. I know some of my information. I can't necessarily tell you who someone is off the bat with their information, but even right now, before the recording started, I asked my girlfriend Stephanie to give me a quick reading. So she does ancestral cards, tarot cards, and she has this one deck. It's a starseed deck. So tarot cards are basically in their own realm of mystical cards, right? Of that energy and whatnot. That's their own category. Then there's ancestral cards, and that varies wildly. There's so many different themes, styles, takes on it. And this one's called the starseed one. And basically it's you connecting with we're all starseeds. You're a starseed. I'm a starseed. We're all in this one great collective, right? And these cards, basically, you ask the stars, some guidance for the day, for a situation. Yeah. But something with the whole astrology and whatnot, aren't we getting into Mars? Is it Mars is in retrograde right now? And so Scorpios are they're loving life right now.
Yeah, Mars is in retrograde, and we just had 2 eclipses. It's great. There's just so much happening right now, and I'm such a novice in all of it, but I do follow this awesome astrologer. Her name is Gina Piccolo on Instagram. Yeah. And she has a Patreon page, and she does every week an astro reading for the week where she does a collective one of everything, all the energies that are going on. And then she goes through each individual sign, and you can listen to your rising sign and your sun sign. And I am so in it with her. I now do monthly personal readings, and I swear she is she's so gifted. And now I want to do a reading with your girlfriend Stephanie. So.
No way, dude! I swear, I feel like I'm her marketing manager or something. I'm always hey, do you want a reading? Stephanie does. She does. I'm sorry. I'm always sorry, baby. She's right there in the room. So I'm sorry, Steph, to just sell you like this. But you do readings, and you're practicing, and you're good at it. You have really good intuition.
You can do one right now, live. No, that's a whole other podcast, maybe.
Funny you mentioned that, though, because so you're going to be episode 81 for the podcast, and I'm planning for episode 100 to be a special edition podcast where I'll be the guest, and I'm thinking maybe Stephanie interviews me, but if anything, that will be the episode where she does a live reading.
Yeah.
And who's to say that energy isn't valid? Who's to say if it rings true to you? Who's to say that's wrong?
Exactly.
Who's the astrologer you said again? Can you say their name again?
Her name's Gina Piccolo.
Who's to say what Gina Piccolo is helping you with, guiding you through, it's not necessarily Gina giving you these answers, right? It's not her. She's kind of the middleman. Yeah, the conduit. Perfect. Yes. And I don't know. It honestly feels, because my friend Brian was here the other day, and then we started talking about about cards and whatnot, auras, and he talked about how he used to see auras, and we were just like, bro, like, he got a little timid, but we're like, bro, you're in a good room. This is the right audience to talk about this. And is this our generation's new religion, our new faith?
Because look, I feel like organized religion, really causes a lot of divide in a lot of different ways. I grew up Jewish, so I feel like, I don't know, but I'm like Jewish, like super reformed, but never grew up like with religion as a big thing. But I always did feel drawn to something that was bigger than myself. And I wonder also, as artists, as people who choose careers where everything is completely out of your control, that finding some sort of connection to something that's bigger than ourselves, whether it be, higher power or astrology or tarot cards, to help guide us through this time where we have no, rhyme or reason for anything, I do think is really helpful. And whether it's real or not, I mean, I personally do think it's real because it feels right, And that's what matters, I think. Because Christianity, like, I was raised Christian, and the way I learned about Christianity is that it wasn't a religion, it was a faith. You're just you're having, and that's that. And religion, in my opinion, is just anything man-made that's used to oppress other people and to control. But like when you take Judaism, Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism, all these teachings and faiths, it's all grounded in what you just said about believing in something higher than yourself. Because this world's wild. This world is scary, unpredictable, and it can crush you. It can, like, as we were talking about Jason, Dave, and Frank earlier, like, rest in peace, Green Ranger. Like, life can crush you. It doesn't matter, like, how successful you are, how busy you are, how much money you have, how much fame you have. It can still crush you, man. And having that outside conduit, that outside, whatever it is, whether if it's someone reading your tarot cards, whether it's God talking to a holy person, in your spiritual place, it helps you just detach from that ego and that fear. Yeah. Yeah. It's something where you're like, well, I really do believe that there's a divine plan for all of us. And, you can't see light without knowing what dark is. So, I feel like the things in my life that feel like challenges or hard times, it's like I have to find the light in them and go, okay, well, I'm going to grow from this, because if I didn't have this, I wouldn't be able to enjoy this other thing in my life, because I wouldn't appreciate it the same way. And, it's about really finding, light in the dark times. Yeah. I think it's Buddhism, right? That says that's the one thing we all have in common is suffering. That's the one thing that connects us all is suffering, because that's the common thing in life. We're all going to suffer at one point in our lives. It's the darkness that comes around, right? But the light that comes after, what are you going to do with it? Yeah. What are you going to do with it? And you have a choice. I do feel like you have a choice. I feel like for example, my dad passed away in 2020, and I was so close with him, and of course I miss him every day, and I think about him every day, and I am still moving through the grief cycles, like in a lot of different ways. But I realized at one point I was like, pretty miserable, and I just decided, I was like, you know what, though, I have a choice. I can either spiral into this pit of doom forever, or I can just choose to appreciate the time I did have with him, know that, he's, out of pain and all these things, and really find, the good in the death, and choose. It's not like I'm choosing to move on or forget about him or anything like that. It's just I'm choosing to see the bright spot, So. Yeah, there was something I heard about that feeling, whether if it's, whether you're going through the grieving process of losing a loved one. By the way, I'm so sorry about the loss of your father. Like, I got to meet Mr. Lander. I got to see him. He was a cool homie, very cool homie. Yeah.
But when it comes to those kind of feelings, or if we're going through like depression or anxiety, like that feeling won't go away. Like even grief. Like I lost a little brother. Like it's been so long now. But like when you lose someone, like your father, my brother, anyone that you lose someone that's really close, that grief you feel. Stephanie told me, she explained to me that grief you feel is all the love that you have for that person still, even after they passed. You have all that love with you. And because it has nowhere to go, that's the pain that comes from grief. That is grief. And that and eventually that pain won't go away. Because I don't know about you, but personally for me, my little brother who passed away, I hope this pain never goes away. I hope I still cry on his birthday, or I hope I still cry just thinking about him, because that's like a reminder that love is still there, that I still love him and I miss him dearly. And he's still with me. It's just part of it.
I totally feel exactly the same way. I'm actually writing something, and it's about grief. There's a piece of it that's about grief and loss. And this one character says that. And it's like, I don't want to feel better. Like, I don't want to just feel better. I want to always feel this because it reminds me of the love. But you also don't have to live in the misery or, destroy everything around you to feel that, I totally agree with you. I feel like there is something weirdly special about this experience of losing someone you care about, because then you go, wow, I really have experienced a love that's bigger than I thought could be. It really is amazing.
Because love, honestly, is a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword where not even a double-edged sword. I feel like that's a bad way to say it. It's more of like it's a bittersweet experience we get to experience in this life, where you get to grow these connections from love, whether it's our friends, our family, right? You grow bonds like that are deeper than anything you've ever experienced, but then one day you're going to lose them.
Right.
Whether that's, life or death, or whether that's, people grow apart, whether that's just so many things happen, but like that's just part of love,
Yeah.
Like it sounds cheesy, but it's like the saying, right? It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you watched the show Severance on Apple TV?
Oh yeah, we watched that. Yeah.
I'm still collecting myself over that show, but it's like that kind of thing. Like, okay, so you've watched it. For those listening who haven't seen Severance, it's a show basically depicting in a very artistic, very visceral way the whole work-life balance. Who you are at work, is it who you are at real life? And in this show, they literally separate the two identities, where you go into work and that person you become has no memories, the experiences you had are gone. It's just it's basically a newborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
But then something you realize in that show, something I realized, was that all that pain, or whatever it is, whether it's the pain of losing someone or whether it's passion to paint or passion to do anything, that lives in the body. It lives in the body and doesn't go anywhere. And what did you think of the show? What did the show do to you?
I mean, it was really, first of all, I won't give it away. Obviously, you've seen it, but for anyone who hasn't.
Oh, God. Sorry. Spoiler alert. It did just come out this year.
The last second of the show, of the season, you're like,
Me and Stephanie were like, that's it? That's it? I mean, that's a great cliffhanger for a season finale, but damn, that's it?
Yeah. But you're right. I mean, it's really interesting because I think, without giving away too much, one of the characters has lost someone very near and dear to them, and they choose to be severed so that they don't have to think about it all day. But also, you do realize that that's not a way to healing. Is what too is.
Heck no! Oh my God! Also, with this whole Jason David Frank with his passing, it's also like more evidence that we just need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about the hard shit. Like, yes, let's laugh about it. Here I'm speaking to, Miss Natalie Lander, funniest fucking person I've seen at Rockwell, right? I hope I don't make anyone else feel bad from Rockwell saying that. Something to come out and be like, yo, I heard what you said, Steven. I
It's
see
me.
you.
I'm the funniest. I'm the funniest.
Steven said in the Why They Have Not podcast, Natalie Lander, the funniest person in Rockwell.
Thank you.
But like, you can laugh about stuff, but like, you have to cry. And like, I'm sure you've had your share of moments to just grieve your father, grieve just like, you have to do it though. You have to do it. But
it's true.
But let my curiosity pick a little deeper, if it's all right. You said you're writing something.
Yes.
What are you working on? Can you talk about it?
Yeah, I think I can. I mean, it's just me writing it.
Yeah.
It's actually it's a comedy. So while it sounds really dark and sad, it's a comedy. It's a Hanukkah rom-com that I've been writing.
Okay.
Because I felt like we don't have, we have a lot of Christmas rom-coms. And I was like, we don't have any Hanukkah rom-coms. So I've been writing it with a writing partner friend of mine. His name's Mike Zara. And we've been writing it for almost exactly a year now. And we just turned in our official draft of our final script. I mean, it will get notes and revisions, of course, from here. But the draft that we felt ready for, we sent it into our reps, and we'll see what happens with it. It's kind of it's not like a Hallmark movie because it's definitely a little edgier, raunchier, but it's super fun. And it also explores, grief and loss along with, the Hanukkah traditions. And I think, around the holidays, we tend to feel a lot of feelings. And so I know what this is.
Yeah, especially with family involved. Is I bet with Hanukkah, I mean, we all know big Jewish families. Is that going to be an element too? Not just the rom-com aspect, but is there going to be a heavy family aspect to the
familial aspect? But basically, sort of the elevator pitch is that, a year after this girl's death of her grandmother, who was her best friend, her friend takes her on a girls' vacation over Hanukkah to get away. And then when she shows up to the retreat, she finds out it's actually a Jewish singles retreat that she's been tricked into being on and doesn't want to be there. So it's kind of like a comedy of errors, but it's the death anniversary of her bubby. And so there's a lot about grief and loss in there.
Oh, I think the best comedies need a little darkness.
Yeah.
It's like the contrast. It's like the black and white contrast in a sketch, Yeah,
totally. And I started writing it, about a couple months after my dad had passed, and I felt like I needed an outlet to write about the grief process and how I was feeling, but I didn't want to write about it. I didn't want to write my story personally, and I didn't want to write about a girl losing her dad. And so this just kind of felt like a perfect way of where I could still, use my art form as a way to heal, but it wasn't as hard and difficult to do it as the true story of or whatever.
Yeah.
Really, this is a little of, everything.
Would you have been able to get through the writing process if you made it a little closer to home?
Oh, I felt it was interesting. We toyed around with it being the loss of her dad, and it just didn't quite drive the character in the same way. And so I feel like that is a story eventually that I will write. But for this in particular, it just didn't feel like the right person to lose for this character and her journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was it just like a moment of inspiration that got you writing, that got pen to paper, like you were in the midst of your grieving, and then you were like, oh, I got to get this out somehow?
A little bit backwards, actually. I had originally just thought of this idea that I wanted to write a Hanukkah rom-com.
Oh.
And I thought of it many years ago, but it didn't really have any, there wasn't anything to the crux of the story that was really a driving force behind the main character. And it was sort of maybe I started writing it and one could think it was kind of like a long sketch, you know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, yeah, that's fun, but like, why, you know? And when I partnered up with my writing partner on this project, he was the one who encouraged me to use a death of a loved one as this character's driving force and kind of what's emotionally going on, so that the movie isn't about a girl trying to get a guy. It actually is the opposite. It really is a movie about someone trying to heal from loss. And so once he kind of like planted that seed with me, it got the ball rolling, and then we found our story, and it's been really, really fun. So I hope one day someone gets to see it.
God, heck yeah.
It's a long road. There's a long road ahead of us.
Heck yeah. Well, well, hopefully this will be the first mentioning of it, the first word of it. We'll make a little clip, and we'll start planting seeds.
Exactly. So this is like the first sort of, it's birth. Actually, fun fact, my astrologer, Gina Piccolo, and I, we did the birth chart of my script with my friend Mike. And
wait, time out. The birth chart of your script? So does that mean like you took what? So, okay, I need you to run me through this. I need details. How did you get the birth through? How did you do that?
Basically, I mean, who knows how exact and accurate it is, but she was like, okay, when do you think was like the first, like the beginning of you guys doing this, starting this script, like the birth of it? So we looked back into, because I obviously save every document we ever write on, every draft, everything. So everything's, dated and time stamped. So we looked into my, the movie right now is called Hawanica because it takes place in Hawaii.
That's
Hawanica.
That's hysterical, dude. Dig it.
So I hope that title lives forever. But so basically I looked into my Hawanica folder, and I saw like, okay, like, yeah, our first beat sheet we wrote on June 15th, and it was like at 6:43 p.m. was when I guess I finished writing it that day. And then I double checked and went back in my emails and found that I had sent the beat sheet to Mike, my partner on this, and at 6:45 p.m. So we considered that the birth of the script.
Oh my God. Okay. And so, you have the time, you have the date. What were the results? What was your script sign?
I guess it's a Gemini, which is interesting.
Dual-sided.
I guess so. I have a partner on it. It kind of makes sense.
And the story of the script is dual-sided, where it's a rom-com, but it's mainly a person going through the grieving process. So it's about losing love, but maybe possibly gaining love. Holy shit.
Oh my God. See, we haven't even delved so this was just with Gina recently. And so she just kind of told me some key dates to look out for. She was like, let's just see what happens and see if we're kind of on the right track. But I don't know.
Just like Thor said in Avengers, magic is just science that hasn't been explained yet.
Exactly. I like that a lot. So yeah, so we'll see. We'll see with the birth chart. I'll report back if it's accurate.
Please do. I would love a follow-up interview and just be like, Steven, okay. My script's wild right now. It is wild right now.
She is born. So, yeah.
Oh, dig it. Hold on. Let me see. I'm getting these annoying little notifications. I just got to do this really quick. Boop. There you go. Gosh darn. All right. Well, geez. I'm glad I'm talking to the right person about astrological signs and birth charts. So did you get your birth chart done by Gina?
Yeah. So I've always been interested in my astrology and birth chart. So my mom and dad were very hippy dippy kind of, especially my mom. So she's been into it. So she got my birth chart done for me as a gift for me many, many, many years ago. So I've always it's a really fun gift.
How old were you when she got you the gift?
Well, I think she gave me my first birth chart when I was about 19 or 20 years old.
And what was your reaction to the birth chart? Like
Oh
when
my
you
God.
the initiative, like the first response you had to getting it, were you like, what's this, mom? Or are you like, oh, what's this, mom?
I like more like, oh, thanks. Like, of course you got me a birth chart. You know what I mean? Like, this makes sense. It's time for me to have this. So I remember reading it and thinking like, oh wow, this is exactly me. Like, this is like a little mini biography of me and like who I am. I will say, in many years later, I've only recently started getting working with a professional astrologer to understand my chart more. So now I really do recommend that, because I will say, like, you can interpret things your own way, but having someone who really understands it can help you really or interpret it and really get a clear, handle on what it all means. Because when someone says to me, "Oh, well, your Mars is retrograding in your fourth house of whatever," I'm like, "Okay, cool. What does that mean?" And so that's helpful. But I love it. It's so fun.
Oh, it's super helpful. Like when you start hearing stuff like, oh, make sure that the Mars is aspected well, or that the moon isn't badly aspected or something, because this will happen. And yeah.
It's been interesting, because I think what I've learned about when I work with an astrologer, and when you work with a good one, is like, it's not like, people are like, well, you can't live your life by that. Like, and it's like, not about living your life by that, but it's about sort of like leveraging the energy with the planets to your best ability. So, if there's a contract that comes up during a Mercury retrograde, I'm going to just try my best to avoid signing if possible. And if possible, we sign and we see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, actually, we bought our house that we live in.
Oh,
my
nice.
husband. We bought our place we found it in 2019, and then we closed escrow in we found it in the end of 2018 and closed escrow in February of 2019. And I actually found, the first time I went to an open house, I saw this place in a Mercury retrograde. Now, we didn't put an offer in or anything until after Mercury went direct. But I will say, this house has given us some really interesting challenges. And like, Gina's like, what? You did first see it in a Mercury retrograde. And it's not to say like the house is cursed or anything, but it would maybe potentially give you some challenges along the way. And they're not like challenges that are unreasonable or unlivable. It's just like little things where you're like, it might be because we found it during a Mercury retrograde. I don't know what I'm good saying. I like having something I can blame it on.
I mean, energy, again, magic is just science that hasn't been explained yet. That's
there you go.
Like, okay, for those who are like, okay, me, when Stephanie does the card reading for me, when I read any like astrological like readings for myself or whatnot, there's always maybe like 15. I used to say 20%, but now I'm at 15%. Like 15% of me is maybe a little like, what is this? But that 85% of me, like that little bit more of me is like that I'm like, maybe. And let's compare it to other faiths like Christianity. People find real power in praying. Right. A lot of Muslims pray. Jewish people pray. They all have these different things they do that centers them, that brings peace to them. That they read the Torah, they read the Bible, they'll read whatever their scripture is, and they'll find meaning in that, and it'll help shift their energy. There's no scientific fact that proves that that's actually happening, but people still believe that.
Right.
And it works for them, so they say.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all kind of like essentially doing the same thing. It's just we call it different things, Yeah. Whether you call it prayer or affirmations or meditation or, all these different things. Yeah. Mantras. I mean, I do really think it's all energetic. And I mean, I think what it comes down to is we're just we're made up of energy and atoms and things like that. And like, that's what everything's made out of. So we're kind of all the same thing. I know I could get really crazy with this stuff.
No, dude, you're in the right audience. You're in the Why the F Not podcast, so you're in the right audience. Did you? I learned this in my Chicano studies class back in CSUN. But that whole idea that we're energy and that we're all made up of energy, that's something I was taught in my Chicano studies class, talking about like Mayan and Aztec cultures. They understood that concept too, that we're all energy, and that there was some wild shit I would learn in class, like there was portals and whatnot. That Jedis, like the idea of a Jedi, was even back then that was a pinnacle of human achievement that someone could achieve, but it was all about being in the right place at the right time in the right state of mind.
Wow.
And then he like connected that to Jesus, Buddha, all these other religious figures that we see, and it's like when they reach enlightenment, when they resurrected, or when Jesus did this, who's to say they weren't in the right place at the right time in the right state of mind, and it allowed them to transcend whatever that means, right?
Hey.
But then you start. I don't know if you've read this book, and I'm trying to get through it right now, but I get distracted because of my ADHD. But then you read shit like The Sacred Mushroom and the Cross. So long story short, this book explains and just lays out the connection of psilocybin mushrooms and Christianity.
Were they all doing shrooms?
Yeah. So the beginning of this book explains how, back when people were just very basic human beings farming the land, living off the land and just barely living past 30 or something, right?
Right.
And all they had was their faith, their God, whatever it was, right? Something that the people noticed is that when it would rain the next day, mushrooms would pop up. Mushrooms were there like crazy. And to people back then, again, magic is just science that hasn't been explained yet. They didn't understand that mushrooms just grow really fast. They can literally,
right.
Like you can go to sleep one night, it'll rain, and then you'll wake up the next day in your house. And if it's like, you'll just see mushrooms blossoming. It's wild. And they started eating these mushrooms and they started seeing God. And then it started, and again, this is a very shorthand version I'm giving you, but then it goes from that to then fertility rituals, which are also part of Christianity in its origins, because Christianity is so pagan. It's incredibly pagan. But it was a lot of fertility rituals and it's about keeping the land fertile, because when God made it rain on the ground, that was God's semen, if you will. And just making the land. And so when God would rain and these mushrooms came up, they were like, wait, God just made the land fertile. He gave us these gifts. We see him now. And that would connect all of them. That was this blows my mind, because then they connect the whole thing about Jesus. And did you know that, if you were to guess, ballpark, the average age of Jesus and his disciples, what would you think the average age for them would have been?
Like
25?
Yeah.
They're more like 15, 16. They were young boys.
Oh my God.
And people start wondering wait, how do you know that? And then people point out in the Bible and whatnot that it signifies they're young boys because it says in the Bible that they weren't allowed to certain temple ceremonies because they were all mostly Jewish, right? There were certain ceremonies or certain things in the temple they couldn't go to because they weren't of age yet. So that was a clear signifier that his followers, they were all young boys for the most part, and also probably tripping on mushrooms, talking about unity, talking about being one. All the stuff Jesus says makes sense when you just throw in psilocybin. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Interesting. That's so fascinating. Yeah, totally. I mean, I do feel like Jesus was super hippy dippy, probably.
Oh, the biggest hippie you ever saw. Speaking about love and togetherness. And something else I heard about Jesus that I appreciate was that everyone idolizes him and makes him be oh, you follow the Son of Christ. But when he, what I've heard is that when he was around, he wasn't trying to be this leader and be yo, what's up? I got the answer. Come follow me. No, he was trying to say, you also have the answer. I'm Christ. But when I say we're all Christ, it's Oh, you're good. Bless you. It's like, we're all Christ. We're all together, baby. And that biggest hippie, the biggest hippie.
Crazy. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to read that book now.
It's a trippy book. And it's a book that was also the Vatican tried shutting that book down.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
And then the internet said no. And the internet just started pushing out a bunch of free versions online. People just started transcribing it. Yeah.
Wow.
The power of the internet, man. Oh, God. Yeah. So what else you got has you believing in stuff? What else has you pushing forward? You watch anything that blow your mind lately?
It's like so funny. I feel like Jared and I were constantly watching TV because, with the pandemic, we really have scaled back being social, especially Jared. He's just not as interested in being out, because none of us want to get sick. So anyways, so we are home a lot and we watch a lot of TV. And so we're watching, gosh, I feel like we watch pretty much everything. Well, no, I say that and like, I'm not into the Game of Thrones, House of Dragons thing. It's like too violent for me and I just can't. But we watch White Lotus, which we're enjoying.
I haven't seen that yet. What's White Lotus?
Oh my gosh, it's really fun. I mean, it's a comedy, it's a dramedy, I guess you could say, and the first season took place at a resort in Hawaii, and which is funny because I had started writing my script that takes place in Hawaii before White Lotus, and I was like, oh no, and I'm like, no, it's okay, it just means it's time.
Yeah, the universe is telling you.
Yeah, the universe is like, see, people want to see things like this. So, but it's really fun. It's about, it really is about like, I don't know, 5 separate people on vacation at a very ritzy resort in Hawaii and sort of what unfolds. It's kind of slice of life, but there is some mystery and drama to it. And the characters are very interesting. Jennifer Coolidge stars in it. And she's kind of found this like resurgence from doing the show.
No way.
Yeah, it's great. And then the second season is out. It's not fully out yet. It's like every week an episode comes out. And they're in Italy. And it's a new cast except for Jennifer Coolidge. And one other character. So, yeah.
All right. I'm going to add that to the list. Stephanie will appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, it's great. It's on HBO Max and HBO. And it's just really fun. And Mike White writes it. And he writes and directs the whole thing. And it's interesting because it's not really formulaic the way most TV is. And it's sort of refreshing because there's just kind of, sometimes there will be scenes of people talking and they're just kind of talking like regular people, like nothing is really happening, but yet there's a lot underneath it going on. And it's really interesting. It's a really interesting show.
So who's the writer director? Mike, what was his last name?
Mike White.
Mike White.
He's a comedian. He wrote, oh my God, what's the movie? And he was nominated actually, or won an Oscar, I think.
Let's check it out. I don't have a producer off screen. I am my own on-screen producer, Mike White. Oh, Mike White, yeah. Oh my God, no, he's from School of Rock, where everyone was Mr. Schneebly, and it's like, no, Mr. Schneebly's actually a writer too. Whoa! So he wrote and directed White Lotus. He wrote and directed. Yeah,
he wrote and directed it. It's great. It's really fun. It's really, really fun, and it's like not a lot of episodes, so it's like very easy to digest. It's like not a long commitment,
Great cast. Steve Zahn?
Yeah, he was in the first season.
Okay, definitely added to the list. And is Jennifer, you said this is like a resurgence for Jennifer Coolidge. Is she like, so she's not playing her typical roles that she used to play? Is she playing something different? Similar?
No, she's still playing like she is so perfectly playing everything. But I do feel like this is sort of like, I don't know if you've noticed that Jennifer Coolidge is like, kind of like everywhere online. I feel like, at least maybe that's what's being fed to me in the algorithm.
No, I feel it. She was trickling in for the past couple of years, just either commercials or just clips here and there.
Yeah. And so I feel like White Lotus really kind of like upped the ante with her. And yeah, she's great. And then she was also we watched the show. I don't know if I recommend it, The Watcher. Like it's her and
Okay.
Ryan Murphy show.
Oh.
It's a little, I don't know. We were slightly disappointed with it. Like it was kind of like, okay, it was, but she's in it. She's pretty funny. So
I wonder, because you don't always need to have a writer be the director of a piece of media for it to be good. But for the most part, whenever I watch a movie or a show and I'm just like, fuck, that was good, and then I find out that the writer was the director, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
that's why.
Like, no, they know the point they're trying to get across. There's no middleman, you know?
Like the vision is clear. The roadmap is set down. And because the writer is directing, it's like you're at the helm.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
That being said, just a curious thought of mine. Would you ever think of directing your movie? Hawanika? Did I say it correctly? Hawanika?
Hawanika.
See, it's in there. It's a seed.
I see, like, I think I see, not to put myself down in any way, but I think I see like bigger things for it than me directing it. I think one day I'm curious about directing. I've definitely thought, like, more recently, I did a one-woman show this summer that I was in and that I wrote, and I had a director, but really a lot of it was like a lot of my vision that kind of came to life. And so it was like, I felt like I kind of definitely co-directed in a lot of ways where I'm like, these were things in my brain that materialized on stage. And so it definitely got me more thinking about what it would be like to direct. My husband directs, and so I see how much goes into it, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm like the type of director who would really want to sit down and like make shot lists. Like, that sounds really boring to me. Not sure. So basically, I don't think I'm ready yet, because clearly I'm like, ew, that sounds like a lot of work and boring. But
wait, it's Jared, correct? Your husband's name? So and Jared, like, he directs. Does he want to act?
So he used to be an actor, and that's how we met. And now he went to USC for film school for directing, and I think he's just sort of naturally transitioned away from acting into directing. And let me tell you, having two actors in a household is too much. Too many, I think.
Too many actors on stage? What's going on? Like, is it just a lot of character and personality in the household?
So nice that, like, he doesn't have to go through the same, stuff that I go through as an actor. And it's great because he stays busy as a director. So we balance each other out.
Oh, that's wonderful. And hey, different strokes for different folks, right? Yeah.
Like, loved the grind of what being an actor takes. It's a hustle, as you know, you're an actor.
It's not just a hustle, man. It's like there's the hustle financially, right? Yeah. You got to make money. You got to hustle and be an entrepreneur. And you have to as an actor, you have to like put on so many hats, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's also just the mental health part of it, how crushing it can be.
Yeah. It's so true. And nowadays I really do feel like you have to kind of be a multi-hyphenate because there's so many actors out there, and like, you need to be able to create your own work, and put yourself out there in different ways. And like, whether it be, you write something or you have a podcast or, there's so many different ways to have other outlets other than just waiting for an audition to come in and taping it in your house that feels like a vacuum,
Yeah. People are having full-fledged production studios in their own homes, whether it be they're modeling, whether it's them creating shorts, whether it's ASMR, a podcast, animation. People we used to have to wait for like a production studio or some agency, someone to give us entrance to this world, right? But we have the capability now just to create what we want.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like, it's really exciting because it does give us like a little more control where I felt like there's so many things like out of our control. Like even with self-taping, as I know some people love it, some people hate it, and I have my moments where I like love it and I hate it. But I will say at the end of the day, it's like it's kind of nice that like I get to be in my space, I get to be comfortable, I get to do it on my own time. I can like do it anywhere really. If I go on vacation, I don't have that stress anymore where it's like I can't go anywhere because what if that one thing comes up? It's like it's such a nice thing because I do feel like it gives us a little bit of power back. Even though you send it off and then you're like, did anyone ever watch that? We don't know.
We never know. We never know.
I'll take having like my lighting and recording on my good side over going into the room any day now.
You have to any piece of control that you can take for yourself. I think you should take. Like don't get greedy and have that starving. That's that what's it called? The opposite of abundance mentality, where it's like that hunger mentality or that famine mentality. We can't be in that mentality where I have to take whatever I can. It's like no. There's plenty. You have plenty. You have plenty. Do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. Yeah, like my friend Brian Tran, like he just like offered me this olive branch. He was like, dude, if you want to start writing and you're too scared, start writing something. I have a team. We'll shoot a short together. We'll figure it out. And I'm like, dude, fuck yeah. Like even if it's just your phone, like even if it's just like in 2004, I think it was 2004, the short film Tangerine, I think it's called, was shot on an iPhone 4.
Right.
Like it's as Seussical the musical says, anything's possible.
Exactly. It's so true. It is so true. I mean, we've got so much now that we can, make things look professional and just be creative and put them out in the world, which I think is so great and so important.
Mm-hmm. Which is like one of the biggest reasons why I have this podcast, because I want it to be a transmitter. I want people to receive this show and know that, why not? I can do it too. I can do it too.
Yeah.
Is that a puppy ear? Oh, I thought I saw a puppy. Is that your thumb? I got excited. Every time a guest has a dog, I got so excited. I thought that was a dog's ear.
No, we don't have any.
I got so excited. I feel like my girlfriend right now. I got so excited. I saw a dog ear.
No, I wish we had. No, that was my thumb. I was playing with my ring. I wish we had a dog. My dogological clock has been going off lately, and I've been wanting to adopt a dog. And I don't know if you've ever tried to adopt a dog in Los Angeles, but it is really hard.
What's going on? What challenges are you coming up with?
Well, I find that the rescues are it's like really competitive. So it's like if a dog goes up on their Instagram or on their website, you have to immediately put in an application. And then you have to be prepared that you're going to meet that dog within a day. And then you have to be prepared to decide if you're going to make a life commitment to said dog that second. And to me, first of all, I don't operate like that. I like to think about things. I like to really like feel things. So it's just been really difficult. So I'm not going to lie. I'm very annoyed by the whole LA dog adoption thing. I think probably the best thing for us to do would be just go to different shelters and go, let's just go look and see who's available and see if something, if we're led, to the right dog. But
I was going to say, feel it out. Feel it out.
Yeah, it's so crazy. We've gotten close a couple times. A few times the person who was fostering the dog decided to keep the dog. A couple times, one time we just felt so pressured to take the dog that it made me feel really not good about it. And so didn't take the dog because I was just like, I don't feel like this is right. I feel like I'm getting pushed into a place like this and it's making me nervous.
Like, are you being like guilt tripped, gaslit? What were they doing to you?
Well, like one rescue was like, we didn't know if we really wanted the dog. And then we were like, we met it and we liked it, but we met it for like 15 minutes. And, it's like, how do you know,
That dog's probably anxious. That dog's probably nervous, not in the right state of mind to get to know you.
I mean, it's different when you like have it in your life and you're like, oh my God, this dog incorporated great into our life. So then with this particular dog, we asked the rescue, like, would they be willing to do a week trial? And we could just like see how it feels. And they basically acted as if we were going to euthanize the dog the second we got it home. Like it was like, well, we can't do that. We can't, that's too much on the dog. And I'm like, no, it goes to a foster. It just came out of the pound. I would think like a week vacation at our house is just totally fine. So then we were like, okay, so obviously no trial. But then I reached out to the organization. I was like, I felt like the organization didn't want us to have the dog. Like they were kind of like weird. And then they were like, yeah, you can have it. And then I was like, I just want to make sure, like, I want to make sure this feels like everyone's happy, but like I'm feeling like maybe you're not happy. And then I slept on it and I was like, we're not taking this dog. So then I wrote them and I was like, I don't think this is right. This is not feeling right. And they never wrote me back. They
ghosted you.
Ghosted us. And I was like, well, then I deal with like this immature stuff. It's like, come on. I think it's really actually mature and a responsible adult to really think about these things. You can't just go, I'm going to take a dog on a whim. Like, anyway, it's been a thing.
Now maybe that dog, that rescue center you were looking for dogs at, maybe they've experienced that a lot, where people are very nonchalant with dogs. I know that's where I came from. Like my background, my family, they see dogs as chuchos, just dogs. It doesn't go past that,
Interesting. Yeah.
Like there's no feelings, there's no real spirit. It's just a dog. It's there to scare the raccoons and cats from the yard, and it can live outside. And I'm like, what? Why can't I cuddle? What? That's my baby.
Right. I know. Well, yeah, it's so interesting because I think these people really think of like dogs as like humans and babies. So that's why I didn't really understand why they make you decide so fast. Because to me, it's like, this is a really big decision. Like, wouldn't you want to make sure the dog is going to the best home it possibly could? So yeah, it's all a little counterintuitive. So anyway, no dogs here. And that was a really
not yet. We're gonna put that into the universe. Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. We do dog sit frequently. We dog sit our neighbor's dogs, and we dog sit a friend of ours' dog. So we get dog time.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, okay. I'm gonna do a real quick restroom break right now because I have the bladder of an infant. So if you don't mind, if you need to take a restroom break or get some water, I wanted to give a quick shout out to El Salvador real quick. I'm repping my colors right now because the World Cup starts today. Even though I'm against the World Cup because FIFA is a horrible organization, and I don't know if you know the drama with the World Cup right now. Are you like?
Oh yeah, the homophobic stuff.
If only that was it, and
yeah,
that says a lot. If only the homophobic shit was it that with the FIFA and the World Cup. Okay, so the World Cup right now, it started today, actually. The first game started today in the morning. The World Cup is in Qatar right now. And the World Cup is hosted in a city. And I got all this from John Oliver's show. Like, that guy just blows my mind and makes me laugh at the same time. John, that's for you. But he was explaining how in Qatar, they built this city for the World Cup that didn't exist 10 years prior.
What?
They made a brand new city just for the World Cup. And to house the World Cup, I think they need somewhere around 9 stadiums to just to house the games. You need so they had to build 9 stadiums more or less in Qatar, and they were showing like footage of reporters going into those to the construction sites prior to this whole World Cup starting. Dude, the work environments were horrendous.
Oh my God.
Like it was basically slave labor.
Ugh.
Basically slave labor. And like these like super rich like people who are in charge of the World Cup in Qatar, they're like, oh yeah, it's great. It's great. Great environments. It's great. Oh yeah, we make sure they're comfortable. And then the reporter's like, really? Have you been there? And the guy's like, no, I haven't actually. And and the reporter's like, well, I was actually there last week. And then the guy's like, what? You were there last week? Really? Shit. And then interview ends. Bouncers come in, like security, and they're like, yeah, we're done. We're done with this interview. He's not.
Oh my God.
Like, so they're keeping everything hush hush. So the World Cup's a little shady. FIFA is shady as hell. Like, just the whole World Cup event. Like, World Cup's great. I love it. I'm like, if El Salvador because here's the thing. If you don't know about the World Cup, El Salvador It's known as El Piojito de Centroamérica, the little tick of Central America, because El Salvador is the size of Rhode Island. It is a small little country. Literally 4 hours to drive across the entire thing. 4 hours. It's nothing. But so this is a poor little country that their soccer team isn't the best because, again, they don't have a lot of money. So they don't really get to go to the World Cup because you have to qualify to get there. So whenever they do go there, I like to rep my colors. But this year they don't, and I'm glad they don't. Because also the playing conditions for the World Cup are going to be stupid, which is why they're having it now in November. Because it's originally a summer festival. But summers in Qatar reach up to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, that's stupid. But yeah, that's for El Salvador. But if you're watching from El Salvador. But I wanted to ask you before we get into the next segment of the show. I don't know if I'm not holding you on time, am I?
No, I mean, well, can we pause for a second? I do have to leave at 11:20.
Oh, okay. No, good to know. Perfect. So you know what? I was going to just try to reminisce about Rockwell, but we never got a chance to do that. So that's cool. No worries at all. We'll reminisce about Rockwell later. And if anything, we'll get to the next segment of the show, the question portion.
Okay.
And so for those that don't know, these 10 questions come from inside the actor studio. They're the 10 questions James Lipton would ask the guest at the end of every interview. Very simple questions. I like to think of them as deceptively simple, where you get to learn a little bit more about the guests.
Okay.
So here we go. Are you ready, Natalie?
I think so.
All right. First question. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word is yes.
Yes?
Yes. I like when people tell me yes.
Oh, I dig it. Dig it. Right on.
Yeah. I like when people tell me yes. I like when I get the green light. I like yes. I like yes.
Dig it. Dig it. Next question. What is your least favorite word?
I think I'm like, no. I'm just kidding. Sorry, I won't be that annoying. I mean, actually, what is interesting about no is listen, I think it's okay to say no a lot of things, but I think I don't like the word. It's so hard. I wish I had thought of this a little better, but I don't like the word, I guess I don't like the word hate. I don't like the word hate. I think that is a very, dark, ugly word, and I don't like that. But back to the no thing, I guess I don't like people who instantly say no to something without fully hearing or understanding what it is. I think it's completely okay to say, yes or no to something when you have heard all the scenarios and facts. Maybe that's the Libra rising in me. I like a balance. So I have a lot of, people who are just kind of like, will say no to things in life without, really understanding what they are and not being open to them. So it's kind of a long, boring way to say that. Anyway.
Heck no, dude. That was a perfect way to say it. Perfect way to say it. All right. And that's not to say no isn't good when it comes to boundaries, because boundaries are wonderful.
Yes, that's true. I do like boundaries. So it's not really no. It's like, it's more of like a vibe. I'm like, I don't know if I have it's more like vibes.
Yeah.
Like my least favorite vibe is like, eh. And my favorite vibe is.
Dig it. Dig it.
Yeah.
Right on. Next question.
Okay.
What turns you on emotionally, spiritually, or mentally?
I think what turns me on all those ways is creativity. I love collaboration. I think collaborating with people, whether it would be, socially, where you're like in a conversation and you're just collaborating about, life's philosophies and things like that. I love that. Or when you're collaborating with someone creatively and like building something, or when you're I even think like, watching things or reading things is like a way to collaborate with the artist that created them, which springs ideas in you and all these things. So I think that's kind of what I love in life is togetherness and collaboration.
Dig it. Thank you. Next question.
Okay.
What turns you off emotionally, spiritually, or mentally?
I think I kind of said this, but I think people who are not open-minded, those people that are closed off and stuck in their own way and aren't able to see outside themselves. I think one of the philosophies of life is I always take responsibility for myself and what's going on in my life. And I try my best to not blame others or things outside of myself. And so I think people who just outwardly blame everything around them on things outside of themselves and don't ever look within is really something I find to be hard to connect with and is a turnoff to me.
Right on. Thank you.
Cool.
Next question. What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, do I love? Okay. I thought you were going to say hate. I know that one really easily. I love laughter. I mean, listen, I'm an actor. I love making people laugh. I love watching an audience laugh. Actually, one of our things at Rockwell was sometimes when I would stand off stage before I would make an entrance or I wasn't in the scene, I would watch the audience watch the actors and just laugh uncontrollably and see them just forget for whether it was a minute what was going on in their day. To me, that is like the best thing ever is laughter.
Dig it. Next question. What sound or noise do you hate?
Feeding noises. Oh my God. I will punch you in the face. So hard. And it's so funny. Sometimes my husband, like, his eating noises really bother me, but it's really only because I think we've been together 13 years. And just sometimes he's not like a messy eater or a loud eater, but like just sometimes it like gets in my brain and ear more than others. Like he tends to drink water very loudly and I just don't understand that. I'm a very silent water drinker. And so a loud water drinker is like, I'm like, really? I can't even hear myself think. So
is he a gulper, a slurper? What's
like a gulp? It's like a throaty gulp thing. Like there's air in there. I'm like, that can't be comfortable because I don't like to gulp. I don't like to get air in there. Anyway, working on it.
I mean, if anything, that's just evidence of how close y'all have grown as a couple, as a friend, just living together, that you notice the smallest things, like how he gulps his water. I can't think. Man.
Yeah. And like during the pandemic, it got kind of like worse, obviously, because we were quarantined together. So he used to do this thing. He does not do it anymore because I think I freaked out about it so many times. But he used to do this thing where he would hold the water and he'd be watching TV and he would just go.
Like one of those little toys?
Like tiny little sips. Like, so at the corner of my eye, all I'm seeing is like this movement. And I'm like, I can't watch this thing right now because you're drinking like a hamster and it's driving me crazy. Anyway, I was like, just take some sips, put it down, sit back, relax, and get a drink again later. But
I don't know who's listening, but someone's got to put a camera in your household because you got to make that you got to put that on screen or film or something. God damn, the way he's sipping, I can't think, man.
Say in his defense, he's probably fine, and I'm the total asshole about it. It's me.
Dig it. Solid balance. Next question.
Okay.
All right. What is your favorite curse word?
That really does change a lot. I tend to say, like, it's not a curse word, but I do have some like things that I say a lot, which is like, that's cuckoo bananas. And I know that's not a curse word, but like I say that a lot and people are like, where did you come up? Where did that come from? I'm like, I don't know. We say cuckoo bananas. I like a classic fuck, you know. But I'm not afraid of the word cunt. Like, it doesn't bother me. Nice. You know? Sometimes someone's like a cunt, and that's a really cutting descriptive word. Yeah.
Nice. Right on.
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I guess writing has been a new kind of thing, but I think that's kind of still within the realm. If I were to pick something completely, totally out of the entertainment world, I guess I really enjoy party planning. Like I like planning parties.
Nice. Right on.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What profession would you not like to do?
Ugh. There's so many. I mean, there's so many professions out there that I'm like, so admire people who do that, you know? I think, I admire people who work in the, package delivery industry. Like, I mean, what an exhausting physical job that you have. I mean, I can't even imagine doing things like that. So it's like, that's something like I feel like, well, I physically could never do it. But also I like really like so much heavily relies on those people. Same with like our mailman. Like sometimes our mailman will come and deliver mail at 9 p.m. And I'm like, he's walking in the dark with our mail. And like, I could never do that. And I just really admire people like that. But like a job like I would never want to do is probably like, I don't know, is there a person who like slaughters the animals at the slaughterhouse? Like,
yeah,
that job. I'm like, no thanks.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one. All right. Ooh. Solid answer. Solid.
Yeah.
All right. And final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say as you enter the pearly gates?
I would say you did it. You know, like you did it. You did all the things you wanted to do. You achieved the things you wanted to achieve. You did it, and you did it well. So that's what I'd want to hear. You did it.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, you did it. You got to the end of the podcast, Natalie. We did it. Now it's your time to please let the listeners know what you're up to, what they can check out, anything you want them to check out. The floor is yours.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess I did write this one-person show that I performed over the summer based on my experience of being on this reality TV show on MTV to play Elle Woods in Legally Blonde the musical on Broadway. And I will be doing that again in LA sometime in 2023. I don't have the exact dates yet, but it will be happening again. So I'm very excited about that. And that was a really big creative feat that I feel like I achieved. So I'm proud of that. And then I did just shoot a movie for Tubi, which is free, directed by Danielle Fishel and written by her husband, Jansen Karp. And that was really fun. And I think it's actually, I really liked the script. It's very cute. I play a 20-something-year-old, so there's that. And it was one of those things where, I don't know, it was a set where you really felt like family. And, you know, even though it was only a couple weeks, it was such an enjoyable experience. I'm really excited to see how it turns out because I personally had such a great time working on it. And Tubi is a cool new streaming service that's free and it's ad-based. So,
what was the movie called once more? What was it?
It's called Classmates.
Classmates.
Takes place in college. So,
Well, right on. God, we didn't even get to talk about Legally Blonde. We didn't get to talk. We didn't even. There's so much, and we spent almost. We're over an hour 10 now, and like we didn't even get to talk about that.
Oh my gosh! We'll just have to. I'll just have to bore you again and come back.
All right. You know what? You're twisting my arm, Natalie. You're gonna have to come back. All right.
My myself back every week to just do drone on for hours.
Well, I mean, this is I always said that the podcast started off for me as cheap therapy when it was just me. So if you just need to come vent about something, or you're like, I have an idea that I just need to just talk about, Steven, I'll be like, hey, come on to the podcast. This will be your soundboard.
Well, thank you. I had such a nice time.
Heck yeah. I'm so happy to see you. And we're going to just go. Oh, we did it. We got to the end of the podcast. We're at the outro. Look at that. Dude, you made it. I appreciate you. Well, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Hope you enjoyed Natalie's stories. I know fucking, did you imagine the drinking one? With like her and her husband, like, dude, I want to see that in a show. I hope that becomes a show one day, Natalie. If you're listening to the outro, Natalie, I'm just gonna plant that seed. Like, I want to see that on TV or film. I need that. But if you want to stay up to date with everything Natalie is up to, especially her show coming to LA soon in 2023, check out her Instagram. Let me see, I got it right here. It's gonna be on the bio, but let me just make sure. Yeah, Natalie_Lander, just how it's spelled. You can check her out there. And everything she's up to. And also all my stuff, Steven Brogan Cortez, Google it. Have fun. What can you find? Are you going to find anything? Quien sabe, dude. Quien sabe. And most importantly, let's not forget that you are enough. You are more than enough. It is incredible how enough you are. Okay? Bye. I'm not getting rid of this part because I really like it. It's one of my favorite parts. It's one of my favorite parts. It's one of my favorite parts. And when it's over, it's over. The episode is over.